Brent, thank you for being on the show with me again. Tell everybody what you've been up to since the last time we spoke.
Ah, man, it's been busy, right? We spoke last time? It's good to be back. What was it last time? Right when COVID started, if I remember right.
Right as COVID started. None of us knew
So,
what was coming.
right. No, never knew. Anyway, no, it's been good. It's good to see that everything we're seeing from that perspective is kind of diving down from a medicine perspective. Now flu and RSV is kicking everybody's butt because we've been isolated for 2 or 3 years and not exposed to things and wearing a mask. And now our immune systems kind of suck. So the cold is kicking everybody in the behind, including me and my family. So
I
how about
have
you
I've
guys?
heard that. Yeah, we've stayed healthy. We've had other things going on, but yeah, for the most part, when you have a kid in elementary school, they're just going to bring home everything. And so
Yep,
we've
absolutely.
been dealing with that. Yeah, I remember when my son was in preschool, like he would bring home, like he would like cough twice, and that was it.
Mhm.
And I would be out for 2 days. Like I
Yep.
don't know what toddler germs there were, but they were like super powered.
They changed them by generation to generation, right?
Something like
Yeah.
that. So obviously you have a passion for medicine. What started you on that path? Why did you get into this career?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, I first started originally when I was in high school as like wanting to be a veterinarian. And then I realized I couldn't really handle animals in pain. It was very
Mm-hmm.
difficult, but I still
Mm-hmm.
had that passion for helping. And I think it just kind of carried right into, teaching. The medical field offers me a chance to teach, to do this kind of stuff, to put medicine out there, and to the public, and then also now obviously practice medicine. So
Mm-hmm.
it started there, and then it was a downward spiral, I guess you could call it. Yeah.
Downward spiral career,
Right.
whatever you want
Hmm.
to call it.
Hmm.
So, having all of the training that you've had, doing all the great stuff that you've done, how important do you think it is for the average person like me to know how to take care of themselves during a medical emergency?
I mean, I think it's hugely important. One, the likelihood to increase your survivability and productivity, if you will, is huge. Especially as a family man, you want to be there and be able to be there for your family. If you can help yourself do that, why not? So
Yeah.
I think it's 110%. I mean, you go back to, I think you had one of your guys you interviewed about everyday carry. It's kind of like everything differs upon your level of training, what
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be doing,
Right.
and where you're going to be. So
Right.
the basic skills are something to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's you've probably heard me talk about this a lot on the show about there's just people who live in a bubble who think that, oh, I just fell and, the
Mhm.
bone is sticking out of my leg. Magically an ambulance is going to
Right.
appear and take out and take care of this for me.
Right.
But that's not the case, right?
Nope, not always. I mean, unfortunately, we live in the kind of society that we do where we have the availability of EMS. But what if you're traveling or hiking and that's not there?
Right.
So you got to be able to have some like level of care, if you will. Whether you're here or up here, it's totally different. Take advantage of what you have and use it. So,
Right. You just talked about, hiking and stuff, and my family and I, we like to do that.
mhm,
And I've always thought about, going out on the trail and getting hurt and that sort of
mhm,
thing. And that's just not something I'm always going to want to be cautious. I'm not going to suggest that we go do some crazy black diamond trail or
right,
whatever,
right.
like, oh, this one has a fire breathing dragon on it. Oh, well, we're going to stay away from that one.
We'll
But,
just
when it comes to like being out with your family, when you
mhm,
have kids involved, is
right.
it even possible that a family can be ready to respond to an emergency?
I mean, 110%, especially, everyone has a job. Everyone
Mhm.
potentially could do something. I mean, my little ones have helped me teach a stop the bleed class, and they're 8 and 10. We did a church class,
Mhm.
and they came up and demonstrated how to start a tourniquet. I mean, something as simple as them helping you to start a tourniquet. They may not be able to tighten it tight enough to get the bleeding to stop, but if they can start it while you're doing something else, or maybe pulling pressure, then you can go ahead and get it done. So you can teach them that kind of thing, basic you know, care. A lot of it too is just as I tell my girls, if something happens, you look for the helpers
Mm.
because no one else is coming, right? You just said that
Right.
it's not always available. No one else is going to come. You have to be your own person and be your own assistants. So trying to instill that, I don't know, commitment and that drive to one, be the helper, or two, know what to look for. So,
Yeah.
but absolutely, there's a level of skill everyone can do.
That's awesome. I just did a stop the bleed class, and I walked in, and it was me, a bunch of firefighters, and some
Mm,
nurses. That they
right,
all had to do it to get certificates. I was like the only civilian there,
right.
and one of the firefighters had his three sons with him, and I
Mm,
think they could have taught the course. and
Right.
all the stuff
Right.
that they had seen their
Right.
dad do and all, which I
Right.
thought which was really cool. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I like what you said about look for the helpers and that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing, because a lot of
Yep.
times in those situations, kids just they don't know what to do or they lock up.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
and I think some of that comes from the fact that parents haven't sat down and had a very frank conversation with
Right.
them
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
what's going on. Because like what you're saying is, preparing them is just as much as is going to help them in the heat of the moment than anything else.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's too much of this. People
Yes.
are,
Yeah.
are would rather take a video than actually do something. What was it, that one stabbing or shooting years ago in a was it gosh, in New York, I think, in the train system, and all those people were taking videos. This dude's literally bleeding out, and the guy's recording, like, do something. I was like yelling at my screen when I saw that, like,
Yes.
put it
Yes.
down, do something.
Yes, and we
So,
see those 12 of those videos a day now because
mm-hmm. Yep.
nobody's jumping in to help and all that. This
Yep.
bystander effect and all sorts of stuff that happens there. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so all
Yep.
right, so we as a family want to make sure that our kids, know what to do in the
Mm-hmm.
event of a medical emergency. How early is too early to start talking to them about this sort of stuff? Is there a magical age, or is it like a maturity level? What's your thoughts there?
I've two things, right? I mean, you see those videos of the kid, like the school bus driver who had a heart attack
Yes,
behind the wheel.
yes,
I mean, that kid couldn't have been more than what, 10 or 12,
right,
I think,
right.
was the boy. And he saved
Hmm.
the whole, I mean, he acted and he saved the whole bus. And I think the
Yeah,
bus driver, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
So, like, just to be, one is situational awareness, like to be aware that something is going on. And that's never real too young to train. I still go back to when my oldest daughter was like 3, 4. There was a car circling a target by us. It was going real slow, you know, not the right kind of, area to be doing that. Kept going, circle, getting closer to us. And I was like, all right, hey, let's pick it up. Let's go. Let's run it. Let's race me to the car. And she
Mm.
started giving me a little attitude, like, oh. So I picked her up, grabbed, and went. And the car had slowed down right behind us when I was getting
Hmm.
there. I put her in a car, and my wife was in the car. She turned around and looked at my daughter and says, if your dad says to move, you move.
Yes,
So that,
yes.
so, and then I had the conversation with one of my friends who does instruction. He says, make it a game.
Hmm.
So you go out to eat. Hey, where's the bathrooms? Okay, where's the next door to get out? Say that something
Hmm.
happens in the kitchen, where you have to go. Like, what's your exit strategy?
Right.
So make it little games like that. And it sounds silly, but it goes a long way. If something bad happens, that's education right there. Like how to get
Oh
out of the
yeah.
situation, or
Right.
get off the X is what we call in TCCC.
Right.
So you're getting out of the situation. So then that goes for school, that goes for everything, so you can't start too early.
Yeah, I
you know?
agree. Yeah, you reminded me of a story. I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but I was working on a ladder in my garage and my son bumped the
Mm-hmm.
ladder by accident. And so I got
Right.
scared, and it's like
Right.
as a dad, when you get scared and then you're like, it's okay. So it kind of turns to anger. And I'm like, I can't
Right.
get angry at him for that. So I was like,
Right.
you know what? Let's turn this into a scenario. So I laid down on the floor in the garage and I was like, okay, bud, let's say I did just fall off the
Mm-hmm.
ladder.
Yep.
I'm not responsive. What do you do? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I would call 911. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Right.
He's like, what? He's like, yeah, just go do it. And so we
Mm-hmm.
walked through the whole thing and I realized there were
Right.
some gaps in his learning and some
Right.
of that understanding. And so I'm very thankful for that. I mean, he looked at me like I was crazy there for a little bit,
Absolutely. They do. Yeah.
but yeah, but he looks at me like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just that moment that we had, just like you had in the Target
Mm-hmm.
parking lot. And the whole thing is in my family, when I say, hey, we need to do this now, they know
Mm-hmm.
to listen to me and we go and do that, which I
Absolutely.
appreciate. Yeah,
Yep.
because you don't want to have to try to convince the people that you're
Yeah.
trying to protect that something's up.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
that's
Yep.
and that's a conversation you have well before anything ever goes wrong.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
Well, it's
Yeah.
mental preparation. And again, any
Yes.
any kind, you can't do, and I tell all my classes I teach, this goes to the adults. Like, the reason we dial 911 sometimes is, most times, is you need help,
Mhm.
but it can remind you of a gap in your training. All 911 operators are trained in CPR, are trained in bleeding control. They take those classes and they go, okay, is the person breathing? And then you go, oh yeah, I know what to do next.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that reminder, because when it hits the fan, you sink to your lowest level of training.
Right.
So, and that's why you talk to kids, dial 911,
Hmm.
hold pressure if something's bleeding that shouldn't be, especially if it's mom or dad, you know, help with the tourniquet if you know how to identify that, like I've done with my kids,
Hmm.
but of course, given, like you said, different training, different training modality because of what's exposure.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just fact to know to stay in the car, keep your seatbelt on if there's an
Hmm.
accident. If you're going to go out, my girls have seen me respond that pull over and respond to accidents with them in the vehicle. I've said, hey, there's going to be a police officer knocking on the window here shortly. I'm going to tell them that you're still in the car and I'm going to go help, and they know that that guy's there to help them.
Right.
And it's happened before
Yeah.
where I stopped at a scene and I pull over, asked officer, they need assistance. They said yes. I go, okay, I have two girls in the car, and then just would you mind staying close? And he's like, absolutely. But because I don't want to leave my kids unattended. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
that's my
of course.
responsibility.
Of
So,
course. Yeah.
but I've identified that, and then if I'm going to be of assistance, they know I'm going to go help.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's cool. I mean, because I'm sure your children look up to you and know that, hey, like my dad is a helper. My
right.
dad is one of those. But that's
Hmm.
that's that's got to be a good comforting feeling for them.
Yeah, I would hope so. I know a lot of times it's stressful because, like, what's dad doing? Where's he going? That kind of thing. But
Right. Like,
and
oh, dad's gonna go save somebody's life again. We're gonna be late to
unfortunately,
the movie. You
right.
know.
Well, fortunately, when they were little, we had a cardiac arrest in a pool, and
Oh.
it was right before their lesson. They were little. I don't even know if they remember. But I told Kate, okay, I told my wife, grab the kids. I'm gonna go. I got to go to work. Tell them Daddy's gonna go help someone, and that's what they need to know at that age. That I was gonna go
Hmm.
help someone, not that he's got to go save this guy's life or try to, or this guy's dying.
Right.
Like it's appropriate for their age.
We've talked a lot about their preparedness for the family. So
Mhm.
what sort of like, go ahead and like give me some skills that you think every family needs to know that we can,
Mhm.
put to different scenarios. What's some core skills that we need to have?
Okay. I think situational awareness, absolutely,
Mm.
110%. Um, that way they know when they should act or have their threat level elevated a little bit and kind of understand it without knowing the details. Like they don't need to we're in the OODA loop and we're in the observation stage or the decision or action stage. They don't need to know that. That's kind of for us as adults to teach to help people understand. But just the observation skills to look around at any age, you can always do that. Basic first aid skills, like they know how to manage if they have a boo boo when they get on a bike. Okay, it's not a bad bleed. I can move my leg. I can get home if they're out with their friends. I just need a band aid. Something like that
Hmm.
they can help out and know, and then also know when to call for help. Like if they're confused, the whole idea of dialing 911 is scary, like you said with your son.
Sure. Yeah.
Do I have a phone? How do I do it on my little Apple Watch I have? How do I
Yeah.
know how to do that? How many parents
Yeah.
have gotten the Apple Watches and actually never taught them how to use 911 on it?
Hmm.
Probably quite a few.
Yes. Yes.
Um, or here's the person you should call if there's an emergency. So contacts. And then you
Hmm.
talk about, okay, knowing your contact information if you're lost, date of birth, your parents' names, and maybe a phone number, like, because that's important too. So that goes
Hmm.
to kind of a skill set, right? That's a basic preparation skill. So, like, you look at the most likely scenarios kids are going to face, it's separation, it's injury with the friends or a friend injured,
Hmm.
or for lack of a better term, stranger danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So knowing how to dial and what to do and situational awareness is huge. I think kids can help with like getting a tourniquet on a leg. I could tell my
Hmm.
daughter, "Hey, get the tourniquet out. Dad's really hurt here injured. I need a tourniquet." And she can get me the tourniquet. She knows where it is in the vehicle. She knows what, how to start it to get it open, start it. And then if that gets me enough time to actually do some work, I can do some work myself.
Very
So
cool. Very cool.
I
There was
think
one
that's,
time I had an injury to my foot and it just kept bleeding. I had ended up going to get
mm-hmm.
stitches and it was just my son and I at home. And I was bleeding and I was putting pressure on it, still wasn't stopping. It just wasn't stopping.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh great. And so my son just looks me dead in the eye. He's like, do you need a tourniquet? Because he was just gonna go get it. I was like, no,
Yeah.
buddy, but thank you for thinking
Good
about
thinking.
that. I,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Like, do you need a tourniquet? It's like,
Right.
I'm ready to go. I don't want to, but I'll do
Right.
this.
Right.
But yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was an embarrassing injury. I'll tell you about. I don't want to say it on the podcast. I'll tell you about it when it's done. But yeah, that was a fun one. All right. So speaking of accidents that can happen at home, a lot of times people just buy a first aid kit for the house
Mm-hmm.
and they
Right.
just keep it's like they go to Amazon or they go to Walgreens or
Right.
whatever and they just grab one. What are some things that we absolutely need in a home first aid kit?
I think a first aid kit kind of generalized. There's one that I carry. It's in my truck. It's in my SWAT bag. It's just a general first aid kit because you can always use aspirin, Tylenol, Motrin. Those are all in there. Given they expire, you need to pay attention to that stuff. But There's also first aid books. There's tape. There's gloves.
Hmm.
Personal protective equipment.
Yep.
There's bandages, larger bandages for pressure dressings and stuff. Um, but I would definitely augment those, or increase your usefulness by adding a few things. One is you can go, and I've done a quick short on my YouTube channel for Damascus Medical. You walk into a grocery store and for $6, you can get stuff to do wound packing.
Hmm.
Like rolled gauze. It doesn't need to be the fancy,
Right.
hemostatic gauze where
Hmm.
it's $30 a package. You can do $2 rolled gauze that's sterile. It works. And an
Hmm.
ace wrap. How many of you guys have ace wraps? I
Yeah.
had an ace wrap for sprains with kids because kids are going to break stuff and sprain stuff, and probably me now being over 40,
Yeah.
it's inevitable.
Right.
And lots of a leave. No, but on a serious note,
Right.
um,
I have goody
and
powders and all mine,
right,
man.
right. Ace wrap is huge because you can use it for splinting, for sling, for a pressure dressing, like
Mhm.
anything that can be used for multiple purposes. That's what I add to my kit, really, because like I carry a SWAT T, which is a rubber band. It's like
Mhm.
essentially a giant rubber tourniquet. It's not a great first person, like only one person application for
Mhm.
yourself, but it works amazing as a pressure dressing. It works amazing on animals because
Mhm.
I have dogs. Um, and it works amazing on kids because it can get enough pressure because you don't need a lot of pressure to
Mhm.
constrict a vessel. So you actually have a multi-use piece of equipment. So, but yeah, Ace Wrap, I add that to it. I'm just trying to think of stuff that's in mine. A thermometer, especially with kids and travel.
Yep. Yep. That's a
Um,
good point.
uh, Motrin, then liquid Motrin, and know your kids' doses. I always
Mhm.
weight base my kids, obviously, because that's my training. And then Benadryl, huge. I mean, allergic
Yes.
reactions as a
Yes.
provider, allergic reactions scare the hell out of me because there's not a lot of options in the field for kids. Like, so
Yes. Agreed.
we go camping. It's like, so I want that Benadryl to buy us a little time.
Yeah.
And now I also happen to have, like, Zofran for the
Mhm.
kids and for the wife in case we get food poisoning or something like that. But that's always, I have one of my fellow ER docs refill a script for me when I'm out,
There you go.
so yeah. So just things that I kind of add to it. But one of my other things I love, because mostly I lacerated my scalp,
Ooh.
home injury. Um, I had a thumb stapler, a medical grade thumb stapler that we were
Mhm.
able to staple my head at home, and I went to work that like 30 minutes later, and worked my shift, and
With
but
staples in your head. Way to
yep,
go, man.
yeah. Hey, listen, you do what you got to, right?
Right.
But there is something out called Micromend, and they're these
Mhm.
little, essentially, it's like a steri strip with mini staples in it, and it works great. I mean, I love it for superficial wounds. I've
Mhm.
used them, I've practiced with them. I've had them in my kit, gosh, since I started TACMed, because even for like the EMS guys and stuff, they're cool. And they're not that expensive. You can get them on Amazon, and it's a physician company that runs them. So, and I did a video on those too, and because I thought it was a great addition that I need to talk about. So,
Yeah. That
yeah.
does sound good. That does. It
Hmm.
sounds a whole lot better than stapling your head together.
Well, this was a little too deep. Staples were needed, and
Uh,
luckily I have a PA who's an ortho PA down the road, and it was in a spot where I couldn't quite get it. I'm like looking in the mirror, like I can't get it. So we call my buddy. He comes over. He's like, "So you want lidocaine?" I'm like, "Nope, get it done. Let's go."
ooh.
So
Oh, wow.
8 staples
Gosh.
later, yeah,
Man. Man,
it was
you
a
are
good time.
tough.
Yeah.
All right. So we
If you're
talked.
what is this? If you're gonna be dumb, you got to be tough, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's true. That's true. All right. So we talked about the home first aid kit.
Mhm.
What kind of kit should people have in their cars?
And again, I watched that lecture on everyday carry. Like, it really, I tell everyone, it's got to be mission specific, is how I tell the guys
Hmm.
that do TAC med, where obviously I'm not going to carry around like a chest seal and needle decompression every time. I mean, I actually do because I'm trained in it, because
Right.
who
You're
knows what I
trained.
come
Right.
across.
Hmm.
But from a general family thing, okay, you're going camping, you need the Motrin, the thermometer, the Tylenol, the Benadryl, just to be prepared for, hey, kids are going to get sick. How many times have you guys gone to a hotel, had an overnight or a weekend out, and one of the kids spikes a fever and you don't know where the local store is?
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
get make them comfortable, something simple like that.
Yeah.
I would argue that stop the bleed stuff is essential,
Yeah.
because again, that's something you can do to save a life. From blood loss is easy to stop if you know how to do it.
Hmm.
Um, so just a tourniquet, wound packing, pressure dressing, some kind of something to make a pressure dressing, like we talked about. Um, That's all essential. I look at mine, like I showed you shortly after we did our first, when I got the patch from you.
Hmm.
Um, it's literally, it's the kid stuff. I have it's called a shield kit from Focus Medical Research. It's a tourniquet in
Hmm.
there. So there's your stop the bleed, gloves, pressure dressing, wound packing stuff, all in one little container. Got the Benadryl, got the Motrin, got the thermometer, got bandages, Ace wrap. That's all in there. And now I carry, I have my truck go bag, my little truck, T
Hmm.
triple C stop the bleed kit, but I also include MPA or nasopharyngeal airway. I include, you know, chest seals. Again, because I'm doing things that most people don't normally do.
Right. Right.
So yeah,
That's
but
cool.
again, stuff does need to be included to prepare for that. So
Right. You brought up an important point. I forget the name of the company that you just said you bought something from, but tell me why I should not buy a tourniquet from Amazon.
right, actually, so I always say use good, reputable companies. So North American Rescue,
Yep.
TACMed Solutions, they're the ones that created the soft T. North American Rescue did the cat tourniquets,
Hmm.
which are the top two used in the field currently. And then Focus Medical Research, they do a bunch of stuff. They have military contracts. I've used their wound packing models for years, so I try to do most of my shopping through them just to kind of help them out. Not that they need my help because they're doing well.
Right.
But again, you go on Amazon, I share the story. I had a state trooper that came in just with a patient when I was in the ER. He has tourniquet on his belt, excuse me. And I looked at it and went, that kind of looks odd. I go, hey, can I see your tourniquet? Yeah, sure, doc. Here you go. He knew I was doing tourniquet lectures and stuff. And I took the windlass and I just bent it. And the windlass is the twisty stick. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
where'd you get this? He's like, yeah, their trainer bought it for us. I don't know where it was out of. So how would that have helped him? He has to put it
Right.
on his leg. I mean, most of these guys are strong, big boys. You got to have a
Hmm.
lot of pressure under it. That windlass is going to snap, bend, and not do its job.
Right.
And then you have a lost life because of equipment. So you don't know what you're getting. You could get
Hmm.
these Chinese reproductions, for lack of a better term, that were going. There were a big group of them, counterfeit ones that were out
Yeah, that
there.
was a big problem there for a while.
I tell people if you're going to order on Amazon, you look for the ones where they're from. North America Rescue, all those places have their own stores. So you
Hmm.
shop through that. If you're questionable about it, mark it as a T on it with a giant marker, and it's a trainer, and use it as a trainer. So say
Hmm.
you're going to spend $30, I get 3 tourniquets for 30. Awesome deal. Yeah, no.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, that you get what you pay for. You
Yeah.
get what you
So
pay for.
you look at those, like the straps, they're very thin, little plastic piece, and those the way the tourniquets thread through, that'll snap, stuff like that. You kind of look, you know what to look for after some practice,
Right.
but you spend the money. I tell everyone that you're going to spend,
Yep.
someone, so the gun guys, for lack of a better term, they'll go drop, $30 on a mag pouch, $70 on a new magazine. Well, what's the hurt you say drop $30 on something's going to really save your life and probably be
Exactly.
used more often?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, and remember, tourniquets are one use only, of course.
Right.
But
Right. Hmm.
if you're gonna train and you find those crap deals where it's like, three for $10 or three for 30, use them as trainers. It's not gonna hurt you. That's when you use
Right.
them. You just gotta identify them. Don't put them in your kit.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and that's yeah, because if you have one laying around that you did get from Amazon and you're
mhm.
listening to this, you got a great trainer, train your family on it, that sort of
Right,
thing. Go
right.
to North American Rescue. I actually ordered directly from them.
That's what I do as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. I just went to their website and did it, and they're a great company.
Yeah.
Cool. So as we kind of wrap this up, you've talked a lot about situational awareness and how important that is. Beyond situational awareness, what's one important skill that you really wish families had when it came to protecting themselves in a medical emergency?
Oh man. I
That's a
guess I
big
would.
question.
It's huge. I mean, as many class you could take a CPR class, a first aid class, all this stuff, but unless you practice,
Hmm.
it's not going to do any good. Like I go earlier when we talked about, you go back to your basic level of training in a scenario. Um, you got to practice. It's any other skill. I still do training on my tourniquets when I do dry fire exercises at home. Like I still include that. I mean, and I'm a medical professional. I do this for a living. I put tourniquets on people in ER in the field, but I still train myself on a regular basis. So I think just sheer like training and practice is something that most people lack. Like they take this class and they sit the certificate on the wall and go, "Oh, look what I did." And 2 years later, I guess I should renew that, and they go do it.
Hmm.
Which is good. There's nothing. I'm glad they're doing that, but you got to practice.
Right.
So it's hard to to narrow down to one specific skill or skill set. But other than say, if you're going to do this, you're going to practice. So,
Very cool.
mhm.
Brent, thank you so much for talking to me
Thank you.
again and making all this medical stuff sound like something I could actually comprehend. I
You can.
really do
You can
appreciate
listen. You
that.
can. That's my goal with my training company as well. Trying to
Very
bring
good.
TAC med to civilians. So,
Right. So tell us about your training company. Where can people find you online?
so I'm on Damascus Medical LLC on Instagram, Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel as well. I try to do a monthly to bi-monthly quick video, like 3 to 6 minute video of some facts. I know my attention span sucks, and a lot of people don't have time for those long 20-minute videos.
Right.
But I try to put some information out there that's useful, whether that's how to stow a tourniquet appropriately so you can quick access to it, whether that's just a pointer about if you're doing a leg tourniquet, clearing pockets and demonstrating that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And some gear reviews like we talked about, what kind of pouches I use, what kind of ones I like, to some equipment that's in my kit that I really recommend, like those micromends we talked about. So kind of trying to dumb it down. And then we do training, we got, I think I got one coming up with South Mountain Defense, where I'm doing essentially I'm calling it Damascus Level 2, and it's care under fire, like TCCC, more care under fire condensed to a civilian realm. So,
Very cool.
yep.
Very cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
So,
I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for what you're doing. You're making the world a better place, buddy. God bless you and your mission.
all right. Hey, I enjoy what your information you put out there too. So always like listen to it. Keeps me interested when I'm driving home too. So,
Oh, awesome. If I can keep you
yep,
awake on the
yep.
way home, man, that's awesome.
Hey, listen, it's good information. Like I said, watching a lot of the stuff, you got good people coming on, and I'm honored to be part of it. So thank you.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
All righty, thank you very much.